All right. Theoretically, it's doing that. Um, or it looks like he's frozen. No, no, no. You were moving. Okay. Let us. We are working on Shiur Tet in the Shulchan Aruch through the Mishnah Berurah. We're starting about halfway through, I think. Yeah, on Seif Tet. That's where I have us starting. We'll do some more stuff on Borer, and then we'll never close the book on Borer, but we will move on from Borer to cooking next week, God willing. So. And I imagine we'll spend a lot of time on cooking. That'll be a major topic for maybe a month or two, maybe not quite that much, and then we'll come back to some more of these. So let's tet. There's Shiur Tet, Seif Tet in the Shulchan Aruch. Yeah, Mishameret. Afil Tuya Me'erev Shabbat, Asuli Ten Bashmarim. Okay, so you have a Mishameret. I'm gonna leave untranslated for the moment because actually the Mishnah Berurah is going to explain the difference between a Sudar and a Mishameret for us, which we'll look at, and I was very thankful for that because I've been struggling with. I don't know if you noticed this in class. I was struggling exactly with how it differs from Sudar, and he thankfully steps in and is helpful. All right, maybe you weren't struggling. I was. Aval, im nitam bashmarim erev Shabbat. So you can't, even if you hung up this Mishnah before Shabbat, you set it up, you can't put dregs of wine in it. We'll get into why. Aval natam bashmarim erev Shabbat. But if you put in the dregs before Shabbos, that translation of Shabbat is Shabbos. Mutar litan alehem mayim. You can then pour water over kadesh yachzru slulim lazov to get the wine to keep flowing out, right? It's the kind of thing here. The clear wine to go. So, but yeah, it's so let's look at Sif Katan Lamed Gimel. But on why putting wine and shmarim together in a wine in a mishameret is not borer here. So let's see, Lamed Gimel in the in Mishnah Berurah, Slulim. Max, take it away.
רצונו לומר שיהיו השמרים צלולים והמים ייזובו מהם עם מקצת מן היין שנשאר בלוע בו, והטעם שאין בנתינת מים משום בורר, שהמים שהוא נושאין צלולים הם, ואין בהם דבר שצריך לברר בהם. Okay, so these dregs are clear, I guess, and
Yeah.
and so the water just passes right through them, or goes from them with a little bit of the wine that remains absorbed in the dregs, and I guess the reason that it's mutter is that when it goes through the water, there's no borer because the water is also tzalul. And there's nothing that needs to be chosen. It's already clear. It's already
exactly.
Right.
Yeah. You might have thought, right, because you're removing more wine from the dregs that you're doing something wrong, but he says no. What you're really doing is you're actually taking you're just getting some water in the some wine in the water, right? Is essentially what he's trying to say here. I think I do a little bit more of it. So
mutar litan b'Shabbos mayim al gebe shmarim shenish'aru bechavis v'kol tina mayim tam hayayin umotzi'in osan b'Shabbos v'shosin oso. And it's fine to on Shabbos pour water over the shmarim that remain in the chavit, and the water will take on some of that wine flavor. And then to remove that watery substance on Shabbos and drink it.
Exactly.
This feels like a pour over coffee might be
exactly why I wanted this here. Yes.
Yeah.
So, yes, this is the thing, right? And I remember this was several years ago when we last did Shabbos. I'm not making a ruling on pour over coffee. I will tell you that I make pour over coffee on Shabbos. There are many poskim who allow it. There are many poskim who don't allow it. This is, there's obviously the cooking concerns as well you have to think about, right? But, with the kli shlishi and all that, it's probably fine. But this whole question of is pouring the water over the coffee grinds an issue? And one of the answers is, well, no. Rav Nachum put it to me very well. He said, you're not you're not filtering, you're actually unfiltering, right? You're dirtying the water on the way through the coffee. Now you could, and I think the Havamina here the Mishnah is dealing with that he's rejecting is that, well, you're actually removing some of the flavor from the dregs, some of the wine from the dregs, or in the case of the coffee, some of the flavor, but that seems to not be a problem in this case. So, yeah. As again, there are other reasons to people might not like pour over. Some people just don't like it from a cooking issue, but yeah. Okay,
It feels
good.
yeah.
So go for it, Max. Say it.
No, not there's no like halachic piece of it. I don't make pour over coffee on Shabbos. It just feels like I'm like a little bit too much of a mess to deal with on Shabbos
Oh,
for
interesting.
me.
It's yeah,
But like not from a formalistic standpoint.
yeah.
Like I have before and I would. I feel like
That's a really interesting instinct of like just not making a mess on Shabbos, right?
yeah, just like a lot
Yeah.
more dishes to clean up, and there's usually already stuff in the
Mm.
sink. And
Yeah. Also, by the way, just two other things on this that are worth. Obviously, you have to grind beforehand, right? Yom Tov might be a different story. That's a more complicated question about grinding on Yom Tov. Some grinding is allowed, some isn't. And essentially, the general rule is that if it's better if it were ground, if it would not be as good if it were ground before Yom Tov, you can grind it on Yom Tov. In not in big industrial grinders and small grinders, but Rav Michael Rosenberg told me once. He said, "Well, of course, coffee tastes much better if it's ground the day of. So, like, why would you ever want to grind it beforehand?" But okay.
I think there's
And
some I think it's Rabbi Akiva Eger has some comment where he's like, if you grind your coffee that not immediately beforehand, like what are you doing? I
oh,
can't
really?
remember where
That's
it comes
great.
up, but he has
Yeah,
some comment where he comes out against pre-ground coffee.
that's amazing. That's if you can find it, let me know because
Yeah,
that's
I
a
can't
very
remember where I
great.
saw it, but I'll try and find it.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously that. And the other thing that we actually saw just based on what you said, if you remember the Rav Moshe we saw on Monday about, remember his proof that washing is not borer? Do you remember this? Rinsing is not borer, rather. What was his proof from? Did not do a good job teaching this, clearly. The Gemara lets you wash dishes on Shabbos, as long as they're for Shabbos, right? Right. But so either, for Shabbos can either mean that you need them for a different meal on Shabbos, or the other potential possibility is Rav Nachum and I have talked about this in class actually, about we saw this also with making beds. You don't want your house to look messy on Shabbos, right? Those are also good reasons. So just, there is permission to wash dishes there. Of course, like everything else, there are Shabbos ways to do it, right? Obviously, it would be cold water, and unless you had hot water already prior, and then and it would be, sponges and Shabbos are a little bit tricky, but like they tend to need a handle, and you can have special Shabbos sponges, but that kind of stuff. So, okay,
And
yeah,
that's why Rav Moshe says that maybe there's a principle that placing water on something is never a borer.
exactly,
I
because
also
like
come
if
to
there's
it like that's right.
yeah, if there's borer bechelim, and the Gemara didn't think, and if we know soaking is borer, right? Can be borer. Like,
Right.
what are you doing? You're washing dishes. You're separating the psollet
Right.
from the thing the kli. Why is not a problem? It must be that that's permissible on Shabbos.
The soaking a dish, which often people do as a method of washing, that might be forbidden, but pouring water
Yes,
on something as opposed to placing it in water might be fine.
I know. I thought about that with the Rav Moshe. I was like, in that case, maybe soaking a dish is borer and a problematic act.
Which
Um,
I've been told is the less wasteful way to do dishes.
is that
But
true? Is that
yeah,
that?
just because if you keep the tap constantly running, it wastes so much water. But if you
Oh,
soak
that's
them
fair.
first and then just rinse them, anyway, we don't have to get into the
Yeah. No, these are
issues of
important
washing
concerns.
dishes.
Yeah, these are well, I think this all gets into Boris, so I'm happy with it. This is so okay. All right, let's I want to move on to Yud here. Um, but so Yain o Mayim Shehem Sluyim, Mutar L'Sananam Bishameret. So you can, if you have clear, well, we'll see what we'll talk about Slulim means. You have Slulim water or wine, you can you can filter them in a Mishameret on Shabbos. And then the Rama adds, he says, "Ve'afal pi sheyesh bo kesamim dakin, ho'ilurim lishtot belav hachi." Right, even if it has small wood chips in it, since you would drink it with the wood chips, it's still permissible. Aval besudar mayim asur mishum libun, but you can't if it's a sudar. some sort of cloth or like a kerchief or something like that, a clothing, it's prohibited with water because you're cleaning it. V'yayin u'shar mashkim mutar, but you can do other things, other liquids are permissible. V'yimet machorim, right? And if they are dirty water or dirty wine or, ben mayim ben yain, asur l'sadanam, you can't filter them. All right, I'm going to skip the Rambam for the moment. I just want to stop there and take a look at that. Okay, so I want to start with Lamed Vav. Oh, was that that's from, oh no, sorry, this is Yud. Yeah, I want to start with Lamed Dalet, actually, on Mutar. So let's see. Reuven, you want to read?
Sure. Okay, mutar. כיוון דבלאו הסינון גם כן הם צלולים וראויים לשתות, לכן אין בזה משום בורר. Right, okay, so since even without the filtering, the liquid is still clear and people find it fitting to just drink it, and to drink it that way, therefore there's no concern of borer. Utzlulim mikre kol sheraoi lishtot kach bli sinun l'rov bnei adam. And what sulim means is a liquid that most people would consider fit to drink without filtering it, which is very important for the Rav Moshe also. V'yesh machmirin de davka kshekulam yicholim lishtot kach. Okay, and there are those who are machmir who say that you can only call something sulim, or any liquid like that, if everybody would find it possible to drink it that way.
Exactly.
Even people who are very particular.
Mm-hmm.
Ve'ein misananan ela kadei sheyut sulim biyoter. Oh, biyoter. And you only filter it in order to just make it even clearer.
Exactly, right. It's like, it's really good water, I would drink it, but I want it to be really tasty water. I would drink it this way. It's not dangerous, it's not disgusting, but maybe I want it to be really good. It's so okay. But you're gonna see he actually doesn't seem to have posken that way. He's as the Yesh Machmirim. So keep going.
V'chen mashke shkedim haktushin me'erev Shabbos mutar l'sanen b'Shabbos ho'il di'cholim lishtoto kach b'li sinun. I'm not sure what this particular liquid is.
Oh,
almond milk?
Yeah, it is almond milk. It is crushed almonds.
Oh, that's right.
We've actually made it here, so I've got like a visual on this.
Good. So
amazing. So you can filter so almond milk that you make before Shabbos comes in, you can filter it on Shabbos because you can drink it without filtering it. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Almond milk.
I think it's idea is like the crushed almonds that are in the milk, it's like you would eat the almonds, right? Like it's not
right.
There's nothing, there's no psolit in there essentially. It's just you just want to make it smoother. So okay, what's the big deal?
Right.
So
unlike the coffee, where you don't want to
exactly
drink, although some people are not so concerned, but
yeah, so finicky. But okay, so that's part one I wanted to do on this. I thought that was just an interesting. The Rov B'nai Adam seems to be the general definition, but there is a machmir position on that. And then I wanted to do Lamed Vav, where he talks about this was the you can't you can't pour water into a sudar on Shabbos, but it seems like you can pour it into a meshameret, right? If it's already good water, right? It's already drinkable water. You can pour it in a meshameret, but not into a sudar because it's libun for a sudar. So maybe Ori, go ahead and read Lamed Vav Asur.
Asur l'sanen afilu mayim tzlulim legamre. So you can't use a sudar to strain even totally clear water. Umayre b'she'ena omed muchan lechach. And we're talking about not the kind of water that's standing ready for this. Oh, no,
It's a sudar. Yes.
A sudar that's purpose is as a strainer. I see. So we're talking about a sudar that you're taking, maybe let's just say like a towel that you have in a surprise way and using it to strain. But if it's actually that's its purpose, then it's basically the mishameret case, the strainer that's always used for that. So I guess that's
Exactly.
because the mishameret, there's no chashash that you're doing libun.
Exactly, because it's you've just designated as a strainer, not as a towel, so to speak. And and in fact, I want to go to the Shard Siyun Kaf Chet. This is about the fact that we're talking about it's not omed muchan lachach.
Ken
And go,
muchach mitur.
hmm
Ken muchach mitur, which we saw in the tour. V'chol sheken lefi mai demasik hamagen Avram levasof. And especially what the Magen Avraham is talking about in the end. V'ayin b'tosefet Shabbat sheyishev hetev divrei hatur ach lefi perush habet Yosef.
I don't care so much about that. Keep going
Okay,
to the
ומכל
Mikol Makom.
מקום, גם לדידי, אם הסודר היה עומד מוכן לכך, שרי, וכמו שכתבנו. So according to him, even if the sudar was, it's the same din that if the sudar was set up for that, it would be allowed.
So whereas if I have a sudar, a sudar, before Shabbos, I set up that sudar and I intend to use it as a strainer, not as a sudar, then it's no longer a libun issue. So, but it becomes a meshameret. And actually, with that, I want to look at even this whole question of is libun even applicable here? This is one of those cases where you read something black letter law in the Shulchan Aruch, and then you look at the Achronim, and you're like, I don't know about that. So, actually, Max, take Lamed Zayin in the. Oh, actually, or you read very short. Take Lamed Zayin in the Mishnah Berurah.
Yeah, mishum libun deshriato zehu kibuso, because when you squeeze it out.
Shriato is when you soak it in water. When you soak it.
Oh, shriya.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you soak it, that is already considered a kibus. Ken katav, which is washing. Ken katav Bet Yosef ve'or divrei Torah. It's the Bet Yosef wrote about the Torah of Magen Avram ve'Hagra maske de lo amrinan bezet shriato zeu kibuso. Kevan she'en alav lichluch. So the Magen Avram and the Gra said, though, that's not always true. Shishriuto is kibuso, because if it's not dirty, then you're not really washing it, even if you soak it. Uchedele'el b'siman shin bet saif tet v'ikar ta'am ha'isur hu mishum diachol avo litein libun dahainu al yidei schita. See, that's why I was jumping ahead in my mind of my memory when we learned this.
Exactly.
The real reason for the isur is that you're likely to come to really wash it when you squeeze it out. But you would never think of doing that with something that's made as a mishameret. You're not lo yavo l'sachto. You're not coming to squeeze it. U'adin besudar im haya omed muchan lekach. And that's the same law if we have a sudar that is designated for that.
Exactly. So, all right, this I think we see actually this kind of debate. This isn't really a deraita libun issue. It's a gavul to make sure that you don't do libun by squeezing it. And there's a reminder that there is this debate that the Gra and the Magen Avraham kind of fall on one side of that. If you have something that's already clean, pouring water on it is not an issue. Or putting a little bit of water on it, Yeah, soaking. It's now there is an issue if we were afraid you're going to squeeze it. That's different, But if you're not afraid,
you think they would say in the case of squeezing it is libun? Even
it's a question. I think they would say don't do that, probably at least, right? Yeah, this might come up if you have a cloth that you're using to clean and you put water on it to help you clean a surface. Right? We did see this in Shulchan Aruch, right? If you're not going to come to squeeze it, you might be allowed to do that if it's a clean cloth, because you're clearly not trying to clean it. You're clearly trying to get it dirty, actually, right? That's
Right.
Yeah.
But you still
water that you're using.
Yeah. So what was that?
I was just saying that there's the question of how clean the sudar is, and it's also the question of how dirty the water is. If you're putting it
also fair
dirty water, you're clearly not improving the sudar.
That's
a
you would have the issue of Bורer if it was the right criteria. If the water were dirty enough, and we were putting it through a clean sudar, we wouldn't be worried of libun, but we would be worried potentially of borer. So the gray area where this is safe is where the water is drinkable, but still worth some kind of improvement when you filter it.
When you filter it, exactly. Ruben, what were you saying?
That's all right. I've already forgotten.
Oh, it's
It's
okay.
okay. I don't think
No
it was that
worries.
important. Thank
So, but all right, let's jump to Seif Yud Bet here. So, Kol Makom Shemutar. By the way, I skipped the whole thing about there is one opinion that thinks that wine can also be milaben. There's a lot to say about that, but that's really a libun question, which we dealt with to some extent back in the day. So, Kol makom shemutar lesanen yain besudar. All right. So any situation where you're able to filter wine with a sudar, mutar lesanen no b'chlifa mitzrit. You can do it in this basket, this Egyptian basket. It's you know, but be very careful to not lift up this basket from the walls of the kli more than a tefach, mishum shinoi, because of shinoi. We're going to get into mishum shinoi here, what this means exactly, because you're doing it differently, and what's actually going on. So actually, that's exactly where I want to go. Mishum shinoi, which is sif katan mem and tet. Max, take us away.
Okay. משום שינוי שלא יהיה כעובדין דחול. ולפי זה, מים ויין צלולים דגם במשמרת מותר, וכך נראה לי, ממילא מותר להגביה הכפיפה טפח ויותר, ועיין בביאור הלכה. שביארנו שהרבה ראשונים סוברים שהטעם שצריך שלא יהיה כפיפה גבוה טפח, הווה משום חשש אוהל. דשיעורו בטפח, ולפי זה, גם כשמסנן יין ומים צלולים, דין הכי. Okay, so the problem is that it would be like the way that you strain wine through a cloth on during the week. And so because that's the concern, as long as it's clear, even in a mishmeret, it's mutter. And so therefore it's fine to raise this basket of tefach, or even more.
Exactly.
And I explained in the Biur Halacha that the problem that most Rishonim have is actually not to do with borer, but it's actually with ohel, because when you write the shiur for a tefach, the shiur for an ohel is tefach, and so by raising the basket, you're actually creating an ohel with what's underneath the basket. And so yeah, okay. So it would be the same din with here.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But
v'da d'inyan asiyas ohel lo shayach b'zeh. But ohel is not relevant here. Ela k'shemechasa behakfifa kol chalal hakli shetachtea aval im ochza biyado achas al hakli shelo al pi kula v'shofech biyado ashniya mutar afilu biyoser. במצפח, וגם לטעם השולחן ערוך, דסביר לי משום שינוי, אפשר דגם זה שינוי מקרי. ובפרט, אם היה צלול דאין צריך זה השינוי כלל, לטעם הראשון, כלל לטעם הראשון, וכמו שכתב. Okay, so, right, ohel's not relevant here, but when you cover up the basket, oh, sorry, when you cover using the basket, everything underneath. Sorry, ohel is only relevant when you cover with the basket in such a way that everything beneath
it's covered.
Yeah, right.
That's like we saw with the chavit in ohel, right? We saw that if you stretch it out over the whole chavit, that's a problem. But if it's only partially over the chavit, it's not an ohel.
Right.
So.
Right, but if you just hold it with one hand, not the entire, you're not grasping onto the entire basket, and you pour over the water with your other hand, then it's fine, even if the basket is raised more than a tefach, even according to the Shulchan Aruch, because this
Well, I think that's the end of the Ohel thesis, and even for the Shulchan Aruch, who thinks that it's not about Ohel, it's about Shinui, right?
Okay. I see. Okay, so but according to the Shulchan Aruch, this could still be called a shinui when you do this one hand, two hand thing. Um, especially if the water
Well,
or the
I think
wine.
here particularly if it was Salul, right?
Okay, right. Particularly if it's salul, because you don't need. I guess you're not doing this for the.
Good. I realized I should have explained that he's thinking this whole thing here in this beginning. I'm going to back you up for a second.
Okay.
He's talking about a slightly dirty wine, right? My yain achorin, and he's like, you're allowed to do that a mitzvah basket because it's not really borer, and as long as you do it with the shinoi, you're fine. And so that's what he's saying. The tefach is like not lifting the tefach is so that you don't do it the way you normally would do it on a chol. And he starts out. He says, look. For the yain and mine that are sulin, where you don't need a shinoi because that's not borer at all, right? Then you don't need to worry about raising it. If it's ohel, then you would need to worry about raising it, which some achronim think. But even then, if you don't cover the whole thing, you're probably fine, right? And the Shulchan Aruch who's concerned about shinoi, not about ohel, if you hold it with one hand, you pour over it, that's a shinoi. So don't worry about that either. That solves everybody's problems. In other words, if you hold it with one hand and pour into it over the thing, then everyone would agree that you're doing shin. Either you're not doing ohel or you're not doing shinoi. Yeah.
Right. Even if it's covering the whole thing.
Well, because I think he's saying if you're holding it with one hand, you're not really covering the whole thing, right? It's not like stretched out over the face of it, right? It's
Okay.
But, yeah. Sorry, that's a little bit of a difficult Mishnah Berurah there, but I found it really interesting. I thought, and this would also be, I will say that there was, this must be pretty big because I think we kind of fell to the conclusion, and I think he says that somewhere here, that really ohel itself is only a problem if it's like a very big thing, right? Not for something that's right. I think that Magen Avraham says rachav yoter or something like that was the language he used. So rachav yoter. So I want to summarize that, right? It's like there are cases where you could do dirty wine in an unusual way, but you have to make sure you make a shinoi. But some people are actually worried about also, like not making an ohel with not sieve, your filter, right? And so there you want to just like make sure it's not a big kli, or maybe just do it in a way it doesn't cover the whole thing. So, but okay. There we go. That's Yud Bet. We're flying here today. Let's do Yud Daled. Yeah. I say that, but then I realize I have a lot of stuff on the later stuff, so I shouldn't make any claims. Mutar le'arot benachat mikli lechavero. You can pour softly or easily or nicely from one vessel to another. Uvad shizaher k'shiyifsok ha'kiluach u'marchilim lired nitzotzot k'tanot hanishofot b'achrona mitoch ha'pasolet yafsich v'erechem mishmarim. What you can do is you can just make sure that when the stream is finishing, and now you're getting the last little drops coming down, right? Out of the pasolet that's in one kli, right? In other words, you're trying to pour the liquid out of the grinds kind of thing going on here. And you can't pour every little last drop of liquid out, but rather you got to leave some liquid with the shmarim. Shim lo yaseh ken hani nitzitzot mocheche shehu borer. Because otherwise, the fact you're trying to get every last drop out is proving you're trying to do borer. Right? And the Rama adds mutalek bia chavit al eder devar kadeshe kaleach mimeno hayayin hitav. I don't care so much about that at the moment. I'm going to skip it. I want to do nun dalid in the Mishnah Berurah mochache bechule. That it proves that if you get every last drop, it's proving that you want to do borer. So Reuven, take it away.
אוקיי, מוחה וכולי. רוצה לומר דמוכח שהוא ברורה מתוך הפסולת שבשולי הכלי, אבל תחילת שפייתן כשעדיין אין הפסולת ניכר לאו בורר הוא. Okay, so that's to say that you're proving that you're separating from the psolet that's in the kli, but אבל שכת שפיעתן כשעדיין אין הפסולת ניכר לאו בורר הוא. So if the beginning of, I'm trying to imagine exactly what's going on.
Mhm.
If from the beginning of your pouring,
Yep.
שעדיין אין הפסולת, there still
Nikar.
isn't שעדיין אין הפסולת ניכר לבורר הוא. There's no noticeable psolet, then it's not borer. So I guess you do this until you get to slowly, until you get
Yeah.
gently, softly, slowly, until you get to the last dregs at the bottom where it's psolet and liquid, and you stop.
Exactly.
Don't go any further.
Yeah. Once the psolet is recognizable, that's a problem.
Right.
But when you can't see any psolet in there, you're just pouring out liquid. That's
Right.
not a problem of borer, right? That's what the Mishnah Berurah is getting at, is the Shulchan Aruch is saying. So this is like a big thing. If like, yeah, go ahead.
Isn't this the Magen Avraham? Doesn't he say the same thing?
I think he does. Does he give the source here where he got this from?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if, but it seems like the Magen Avraham says basically the same thing, and he's quoting the Ran.
Oh, great. So that's I did not remember that if I saw it. So that's I probably did because
I just wasn't sure if he was saying anything.
Yeah, he doesn't quote the
Definitely.
Magen Avraham here, interestingly enough. Which is interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. By the way, Shviatan, I would say is the angling of the thing more than it's the pouring, right? Shofeh is to like this could be to rub, but it could be to angle something, right? I think that's actually what's going on. It's like as you angle it, right? As you angle it, then you start to uncover the psolet, and that's really the problem going on here. So.
Okay, I understand.
I think it's also what you can see. Like when it gets to a certain angle, you can start to be able to see through the liquid. I mean, there's
exactly
liquids with different consistencies, but you can picture that experience, and then it becomes borer because you're seeing it. But before you get to that, you're just sort of pouring liquid.
Yeah, that's great. But Max, can you read the Magen Avraham from Sifkat Tefaf?
Yeah. ותחילת שפיעתן כשאין הפסולת ניכר לאו בורר הוא, and then he says that's the Ran. לפי זה אסור לעשות שומן מהמאכל דהה שני מיני אוכלים הם, ואסור לברור אחד מחברו, אלא בידו כדי לאכול מיד. Really the first part there.
Okay, we're gonna look at. I think I'm gonna do one of the Shuman pieces about So exactly. So you wouldn't be able to do this if you can see, like, let's say I wanted. There I also could be getting rid of the psolets, but if I wanted, like, if I had chicken and I had oil in it, I wanted to pour out the oil. Pouring out the oil would potentially be a problem because I can, everything's recognizable and it's clear that I'm doing some sort of borer there, and I'm more pouring the psolet out. So, in fact, but Nun Hey, that's where I wanted to go. Wait, was that the one we just did? No, Nun Hey is the next one. Shehu Borer, right? That you prove that you are borer if you pour out all the last dregs. So let's see. Reuven, take Nun Hey for us.
Okay. Shehu borer, umayri שרוצה לשתות לאחר זמן. דאם בדעתו לשתותו לאלתר, הלא קיימה לן דאוכל מתוך פסולת, שבוררם שלא על ידי כלי, מותר אם בדעתו לאכול מיד. וכאן אף שמערה מכלי לכלי, מכל מקום עיקר הברירה נעשה על ידי ידיו. I'm going to pause for a second. Okay.
Yes, you should, because there's also a big point in the Mishnah Berurah that he's making here.
Okay. Okay, so this is if you want to drink it. So you're demonstrating that you're doing borer here. If you want to drink it at some other time, you're putting it aside for another time.
Exactly.
For if your intention was to drink it immediately, it wasn't it established for us that ochel mitzvah psolet, when you separate them, shelo al yedei kli, not by means of a kli, it's permitted as long as your intention is to eat it immediately. And here, when you're pouring from kli to kli, nevertheless, essentially the berurah you're doing is biyad. You're still doing it biyad.
Exactly. This is the case where even though it's done with a kli, this is actually kind of the Rav Moshe a little bit. But although it sounds like the kli is actually helping you with borer, but it's like he says that is actually a biyad situation.
That's so interesting. I guess that is true, because it's not even like pouring something through a strainer. The action that you're doing, even though the kalim are helping you, it's still your main act is with the hands.
Exactly.
That does make
Yes,
sense.
I think that's where he's going. Yeah, and it's like actually like kind of fascinating because you could have read the Shulchan Aruch here as being about no, this is about miyad, and the only way you can do it miyad is because you're using a kli, is if you don't do full borer, right? And the Mishnah Berurah is saying no, actually, if you want it lealter, you can do that. That's perfectly fine. You can get all the last dregs out as long as you do it miyad, for immediate use, because this is a bayad situation. So. This I actually was thinking about this. I was actually kind of surprised Rav Moshe didn't bring this up in his tshuva about forks and spoons, right? Because in some ways this is like proof that you can have something that looks like a kli, but that is actually a yad. So
True.
okay. I mean, I think maybe even the Mishnah Berurah would say if you really wanted, you could probably scoop out with your hand the liquid. It may not be so fun, but you could do it. It's okay. Keep going a little bit in this one. There's a lot here.
Okay. ואם נתן קיסמים בפי הכלי שמערה בתוכו כדי שיסתנן היטב, בזה אפילו לאלתר אסור, אם אינו מפסיק כשמתחילין הנציצות לרד משם, דחשיב כבור על ידי כלי. Okay, and if you put the wood chips if you put the wood chips in the kli that you are pouring from,
That's what the kli in the opening of the kli, right? So you're making like a makeshift strainer essentially.
Okay. So if you sort of stop up the mouth of the kli with some wood chips in order to filter it better, so that when you pour the liquid out, it's filtering through something. Even I'll tell you this is forbidden unless it's forbidden if you don't. אינו מפסיק כשמתחילין הנציצות לרד משם. If you don't stop when if you don't stop when the dregs start to fall from it.
Exactly.
Okay, so you still have to worry about stopping up to the point that the psolet is nikar. It seems it's the same issue.
Well, not necessarily was nikar, but as long as you leave some stuff, usually you're not trying to get rid of all the liquid, right? So
okay,
yeah.
Okay, so you still have to even make sure you leave some dregs. And this is also because it's borer al yadei kli. The chashiv kabor al yadei kli. You're doing it. It's borer by means of a kli.
It's talking about like building a rudimentary Brita.
Exactly.
Like you've actually constructed this kli a little bit more than just like the natural kli that you had that held your food. Now you've created a little filter with kesamim.
At the top of it. Exactly. So. Okay, Reuven, keep going.
Okay. ואסור לשפוך השומן מן הרוטב, ואפילו אם לא יסירם בכך, אלא ישפוך בהכלי עצמה, דהבה כבורר ביד ולא בכלי. וכך נראה לי מכל מקום אסור, והשומן מקרה פסולת לגבי הרוטב, אם אינו רוצה לאכול השומן לאלתר. אוקיי. ופסולת מתוך האוכל אסור אף אם רוצה לאכול האוכל לאלתר, כמו שכתב בריש הסימן. Okay. So it's forbidden to pour out this oil, and even אפילו אם לא יסירם בכך, אלא ישפוך בכלי עצמה. אפילו אם לא יסירם בכך. Oh, בכף.
Yeah, even if you don't remove it with a spoon, but you do it with the kli itself, just by pouring with the kli. So.
Sorry, okay. Even if you don't do it with a spoon and you do it just by pouring it out with the kli itself, it's still forbidden. Dahava kabora biyad. Sorry, wait. Dahava kabora biyad velo.
Yeah, I think it really should be even though it's borer biyad velo kli, right? Even though it's not using the kli. Yeah,
that was confusing. Even though it's borer biyad and not bakli, it's still forbidden. Thank you. Right. V'kena yerli mekom makom asur. Seems to me in any case it's forbidden. Neshamami kri psolet. The oil is psolet. Unless you're intending to eat it immediately, and right,
yeah, unless you're including to eat the shuman immediately. You're getting rid of the oil. Yeah,
yeah.
And so you can't pour the shuman off the sauce unless you actually, because now you're getting rid of the psolet, unless you actually just want the shuman, then you can for immediate use. Then of course you can do it. So
Right, because removing psolet from ochel is forbidden even if you intended to eat it immediately, as we explained in the beginning of the siman. Should I read the last line here?
Yeah, read the last piece. Yes, please.
Okay.
This is good.
ואם שפך ביחד עם השומן, גם מקצת מן הרוטב שרי. So if you pour it all out together, the sauce with the shuman, גם מקצת מן הרוטב, and a little bit, even with a little bit of the sauce, it's permitted. So if you pour the oil out and a little sauce comes along with it, then it's permitted.
Exactly. So
That is important. Okay, great.
yeah. I'm saying about time. Hold on. What about that? Yeah, maybe we can come back. I just want to point out, actually, if you look on Tet Vav in Seif Katan Nun Chet, he also talks about pouring an egg from one side of the shell to the other. That's also called Borah Biryad, as far as he's concerned. So just know that, Yom Tov, the rules of Borah is different, and we don't really eat raw eggs so much anymore, especially nowadays when there are viruses going around. Please don't eat raw eggs. Cook your eggs. And not on Shabbos, but to know that for whatever reason you had to filter an egg for immediate use, right? That would be considered Borah B'yad according to Mishnah Berurah. So, okay.
I have to ask
Yeah, go
like
ahead.
a basic question that I think I've already asked, but I keep forgetting. How come Shnei Ma'achalim doesn't come into play when we're doing this kind of ochel mitoch other ochel?
Okay. Like it's always like, why is it not
All
more
right,
lenient?
We're saying you can pour out, no, more strict. I can pour out the food from, isn't it just one ochel from another ochel?
Yeah.
If I pour out the food from the fat, what's
Yeah.
mutar here?
Pour out the food from the fat. That's
I guess it's
ochel
because
mitoch.
it's psolet. I mean, what makes it psolet, I guess, is the question, and not just another food.
Oh, and so it was being your mentality, right? Because if we said that if it's that food itself, if there's one of the foods you don't want and the other one you do, then the one psolet is considered, one ochel is considered psolet compared to the other ochel, right? Let's see, where did we say that? But it's oshayush lifnei shnei melochalim v'ramim mimin aper. Yeah, let's see, does he?
No, I understand. Everything, it just becomes psolet.
Yeah.
I guess it's just
This
that
was
we have more cases where the psolet is sort of less psolet-y. It's not as obvious.
Yeah, that was the whole chiddush.
It's also
Yeah.
that I prefer one of them from the other.
Yes, exactly. So it's the same thing, actually. That's why in general those are the same case. One could be whether or not it's actually food or non-food. It's still psolet. One of them is psolet and one of them is ochel.
But Shnei Machalim would be more machmir
Why?
because I can't do borer of Shnei Machalim, can I?
You can be ad miyad ochel mitoch psolet.
That's not ochel mitoch psolet. That's ochel mitoch ochel. Oh, you're saying it's still called psolet essentially.
Exactly. Yeah. So
When we're in the permissible mode, it's because we're treating it as psolet.
yes. Yeah.
And what's a case where it's not allowed ochel mitoch ochel? If it's not lauter.
If it's not lalter, if it's not miyad or beyad. If it's not lalter, it's miyad. If it's not lalter or beyad.
And why is it important that it's Shnei Machalin? I guess I'm sort of lost of what that
you're going back
concept
to the
sort of has no meaning now.
You're going back to the Girsa and the Gemara.
I guess.
Yeah. So there's two. So first off, there could have been a hava amina that if it was ochel, unless it was actually one of them was actually mamish psolet, that borer doesn't ever apply, right? That's version one. And then the Taz thinks it's important because he thinks it might be. The question is, well, not just him. There's two different sides of this. I think the Beit Yosef thinks shnei machalim but lat ochel echad, right? You can't be borer peas from peas. And the Taz thinks actually no, that Liravuta, they came to teach us Liravuta that they wanted to include two ochlin, but obviously it was the obvious case is one ochel from itself. So
Okay, but the halacha, there's not really a shnei ma'achalin case because the psolet becomes the more useful, theoretical framework. Because if it's
Yes.
out there, right, basically what I'm picking is becoming the ochel, and what I'm not picking is becoming the psolet. And when it's done la'alter, that's okay. When it's not,
Yeah.
it
But I
just
mean, it could be
becomes
like
a
if I
ma'achal
have
of psolet.
exactly if I have peas and carrots in front of me, and I want the peas and not the carrots, I'm not allowed to take the carrots from the peas in general, right? But I can't take the peas from the carrots because I want the peas.
Right, but functionally that's the same. You've just treated one as psolet.
Well, yes, but I have to want. In other words, if I took the carrots from the peas and I didn't want the carrots, I wanted the peas and left the peas on my plate, that would be borer.
Right.
Yeah.
My point
So
is that you're still theoretically that's just still psolet because it's what
yes,
I don't want. Even
exactly.
though it's not waste in the traditional sense, it's the thing you're
No.
not selecting for.
Yes, it's the thing that I don't want at the time. This is where actually the
Yeah.
alter may come in very strong. Go for it, Max, please.
No, just like a related question about that. The Tosfos were the one who brought that piece about the one that you are chafetz right now and the one you're not.
Yeah.
They were, if I remember, they were quoting Rabbeinu Hananel in as
Yes, I
like
think
being
that's
his
right.
shita, but it wasn't in the Rabbeinu Hananel on the daf.
Mhm.
Is that like this is a little bit of a side question, but should we assume that they just have either a version of Rabbeinu Hananel that we don't have, or that it could be elsewhere in Rabbeinu Hananel?
It's a great question. I don't have an answer for that one in this
Okay,
case. So
all right,
yeah.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah. Sometimes does quote Rabbeinu Hananel from a different place. So
Right.
that's also quite
Okay.
possible. But I also don't know like how their version of Rabbeinu Hananel differed from ours. That's a
Right.
whole other question. But
I mean, they must have had their own, manuscripts, and it's
Right.
like where what we end up getting on the DAF is some other version.
exactly. It's interesting to see what there are certain works that the Tosfot will quote in their in their perush that they must have had on their bookshelf to some extent, in their yeshiva. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Tosfot on Shas. I heard this. I heard it from, I think, Cannerfogel, who's a pretty reliable source. Quotes the Rambam 3 times. That's it.
He
So
has
they
an
knew the Rambam.
article.
Does he? Does he
He has an
about this?
article about like Tosfos and the Ram, the relationship between the Tosfos and Rambam.
Yeah, yeah. I think he
Try and
sees it
find
as
it.
like they had the Rambam, and clearly they weren't that interested in it.
Right.
It was like, but if they, all the stuff you write on Shas, you have this book and you only quote it 3 times. That says something. So, uh,
Yeah.
as
Here,
opposed
I'll
to
put the article in the
oh yeah, please. I was saying the other day we were doing a Meiri in the classic Talmud program, and Rav Isaac asked me to introduce the Meiri a little bit, and I mentioned that he really makes a comeback with the Mishnah Berurah. And the Mishnah Berurah, if I'm not mistaken, I looked this up once. I did a search on it. He quotes him like 126 times or something like that. And the Mishnah Berurah doesn't quote people by name all that often. Let's be honest about it, right? And so, that's um, I would say. Uh, Really says something about what the Mishnah Berurah thought about the Meiri. Um, but, yeah, he was a big fan. Um, okay, good. Let's
two times. Sorry, 2 times in Rambam.
2 times. Oh, 2 times he goes to the Rama. Even better than that. Okay. Um, oh yeah, Ted Zayin. I'm going to do this one. It's in the on Sif Ted Zayin, Sif Katan Samech Aleph. I'll just read Ted Zayin in the Shulchan Aruch. Mayim sheyesh bahem tolaim mutar lishtotan al yedei mapa b'Shabbat. So wormy water you can drink through like the tablecloth on Shabbos. Delo sheach borer. That's not relevant. That's not considered borer, meshamer, or straining. Ela b'mitake, or it's only considered borer and straining. Ela b'mit mitaken ha'inyan kodam achila or shtia. Only if you prepare the thing before you eat it or drink it. Aval im b'shad shtia me'akevet b'solet sheli kenes toch piv. Ein zem ein melacha mutar. But if you're doing it while you're eating, that's not that right. So that the salt doesn't make it to your mouth. That is just achila. That's achila. That's not any sort of reflection of a melacha, and that's completely mutar. So, right. So as it's going to your mouth, that's a whole different ballgame. So you can literally put a filter in front of your mouth, pour dirty water through it, and drink it. It's this I was thinking about. They have those Brita water bottles. That's, and now we said a Brit is probably okay, but imagine for the moment, it's not a really dirty water. You're drinking it. That's exactly what this is. So
I'm thinking of a coffee technology like that, where the cup has the filter on the top, so you can filter it literally when you're drinking it. But by the way, we didn't spend time. I think we already passed the sources, but you mentioned earlier in the week the French press.
yes, yeah, French press is a little more
Um,
complicated.
I
I
remember
know.
mentioning it as, you're not completely filtering out, relying on what we were just reading before. You're leaving some of the water with the dregs,
Yeah. So
ideally.
I believe also I can't remember where this is. There's an opinion at some point in the Rishonim that things that were separate at the beginning of Shabbos that you mixed up and are now separating is not a problem on Shabbos. I know Rav Ethan Tucker Rav Ethan Tucker has a shita that you can use a French press on Shabbos. Again, once you deal with all the cooking concerns. Um, and I think he's relying a little bit on that, a little bit on that you're not getting rid of all the liquid, right? So you can see how you can make it a French press work on Shabbos in that sense. But I would say I think they did a response to radio on it, if I'm not mistaken, at some point. So I would say see that. He's a much better source than I am. My tradition is not to use a French press on Shabbos, so which means that I think anything that I don't have tradition of doing, I don't want to speak to why it would be a problem. Actually, that's um, but
I'm
it's
also just
easy.
wondering this, like,
Yeah.
miyad, if you mamish pour from your press to your cup, is this not miyad? Like, you're doing it to be used immediately? Is it
You'd be
even
using
going to play or not really? I guess
well,
is
you're using a kli at that point though.
using a
So
cleat
yeah, if you
before it
pour it
gets
directly
wet.
into you'd have to pour it into your mouth as opposed
Pour
to
into your
pouring
mouth,
into
and for
your.
sure it's similar, because this heter for the warming water is pretty strong. This is the most dirty substance we've mishamered so
Oh
far.
yes, yeah, this is real stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but it's going right through at the last moment, and I mean, I'm reading this almost like a heter based on a need, um,
yeah,
because it's
yeah,
so
that's
specific.
yeah. It's like you have no choice, but it's like you have to be able to drink it somehow. So yeah,
Mhm.
could be. So
It also helps with the sort of like the opposite of borer being derech achilah. They're just like
yes,
anything
exactly.
that's
Yeah. If you're actually literally eating the thing, that's not borer anymore. So
even
um,
with all the other factors, sort of
exactly. Which
bracket.
might actually play out that as you are picking something up off your plate, putting it into your mouth, borer just no longer applies, right? Um but okay, I wanted to just this is like a kind of minor point, but Samech Aleph in the Mishnah Berurah, Elam Mitaken, it's only when you prepare it ahead of time, and he just says Ve'alken kishnofel zvuv o devar acher b'machal umashkeh, right? So when a fly or something like a fly falls in your food or your drink, lo yasir zvuv ben beyad ben bekli, don't remove the fly, whether with your hand, whether with a vessel. The havi bor psola me'ochal, you're taking the psola out of the ochal. Eli kach ketzat gam me'achal al mashke imo vizrox. Just to make sure you take some food or some liquid with it, and then throw it out. And this is a very classic case, so I just wanted to show it directly in the Mishnah Berurah. Okay, we're coming up on Purim too. That's the whole thing where Haman in Masechet Megillah says to Achashverosh, hey, look, if these Jews, if a fly falls in their wine, they throw the fly out and they drink the wine. But if you touch their wine, they'll throw all the wine away. Um, so yeah, uh,
So the
nice little thing
response
there.
is no, they can't do that. Actually, they have to
At least not on
take
Shabbos.
the fly out in a very particular way.
Exactly. So, but I always did wonder if that sugya, that piece on Haman's accusations of the Jews is a little bit, it's like anti-Semitism, the rabbis here, but also a little bit of things that they're like, yeah, it's stuff that bothers us too a little bit. It's like
There's
but
that, yeah. I feel like that whole section. There's also in the Targum Esther. There's this whole section of like Haman's complaints against the Jews, and like when
mhm,
you really think about it, it's just the rabbis themselves
complaining
and
about
like
the
all their
Jews.
insecurities, and like yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. Exactly, or complaining about themselves even, it's all right. I want to take only one more minute. We'll go a little early today, but go to the very end of the Shulchan Aruch on Shin Yud Chet. There's a Haggah there I wanted to bring up, because this is he says Harokek Baruch b'Shabbat, someone who
You
spits
said
into the wind on
Shin Yud Chet or Shin Yud Tet?
Shin Yud Tet, sorry, stand Shin Yud Tet. Harokek Baruch b'Shabbat, someone who spits into the wind on Shabbat. Varuch mefazer arok, and the wind spreads the spittle. Hayav mishum zoreh, you're winnowing. You're higher for winnowing. So I wanted to look at it's a little bit interesting. So let's look at Samech Zayin in the Mishnah Berurah. I don't remember who's supposed to read at this point. Or you go ahead and read Samech Zayin for us.
סמך זין, מפזר הרוק, ולא ראינו מי שחושש לזה, כיוון דאינו מתכוון לכך. And I've never seen anyone who really was choshesh about this, because there's no intentionality for zoreh. V'chol sheken de'ein ze derech zoreh, v'ain b'virur halacha. And this wouldn't be the normal way of doing zoreh. What exactly would be zorehing?
Yes, the whole thing. I think that
Substance, the spit.
that's the thing. It's not really the Mishnah Berurah in the Biur Halacha. He tries to get
Or is it because there's something that you're spitting out that you're trying to get rid of? You're separating out of your spit.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. But
Right, but it says that it's happening in the wind.
You're trying to get rid of phlegm. Yeah.
But
But it seems like the problem is only with the wind.
That's the derech of zoreh, right? But when you do zoreh, you're still doing some type of functional separation, right? Just using the wind.
Yeah.
You're spitting. You're unintentionally. The wind is going to spread the phlegm from the saliva.
Yeah.
Just trying to make it make sense.
No, it's good. If you look at the Biur Halacha, which I don't want to do right now, but he actually, it's worth it. He thinks maybe the Rishomi apparently says that actually the issue here is hotza'ah.
Right. I feel like that's what I've seen before.
Yeah. And he's like, well, maybe what he means is like, it's like Zora uses the wind here, you're using the wind for hotza'ah, maybe it's something like that. But that, but I mean, I think just the main thing I really want to take away is like, lo ra'inu misha choshesh, right? Like, I've never seen anybody care about this. And it doesn't make any sense to me. The Mishnah Berurah says he will try to justify the Ramah and the Biur Halacha, but he, I think if anyone brings this up to you ever, and now you might be like, hey, the Ramah says don't spit into the wind on Shabbos. I don't want to spit into the wind. But, it's worth, if you know someone who does it and someone yells at them, you can't do that. The Ramah says it. You're like, hey, Mishnah Berurah, I've seen it. It's like, that's not so it's always good to know. And again, another case where I like these cases because Rav Nachum, early in my time in Yashrut, before it was even called Yashrut, he said to me, Joel, your job is to find every place where we disagree with the Shulchan Aruch. We don't paskin like the Shulchan Aruch. So I like to point out those cases because they're fun and they're interesting. And it's also just proof that the Shulchan Aruch, while I think really is the linchpin of which all of halacha revolves, it is not like the thing that we always paskin by 100% of the time. You can't just be like, it's in the Shulchan Aruch, therefore it must be law. So okay.
I very much hear that. I think it feels like the Shulchan, before you study halacha, it feels like the Shulchan Aruch is a unusual codification that's different than the other steps of Jewish law, because it's like now we have the exhaustive list, and wasn't everything else more in process? But your list is establishing that the process is actually continued after the Shulchan Aruch to some degree.
Yes, absolutely. So, all right, Yisher Koach, everybody. Have a great Shabbos, and I will see everybody next week, God willing. So,
thank you. Good Shabbos.
Safe travels.
Thanks.